Okay. What's up everybody, it's Justin Romine here. Welcome back to the channel. You already know why I'm making this video, but today I do want to talk about why I switched from the Sony a7 III to this camera, the Canon 1DX Mark II. So let's go. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the reasons that I switched over to Canon from Sony. I also go over things that I liked about Sony. Not everything is bad. There are a lot of good things that Sony is doing, but I just want to share my insight, and maybe that'll help y'all when deciding what camera you should be getting or what camera you want to switch to. But at the end of the day, it does come down to who is behind the camera. The person behind the camera is going to have the fullest control over what their films and videos look like. But then when it comes down to certain little aspects, yes, the camera does make a difference. So I don't have the a7 III. I actually did already sell and trade it and everything, so I'm gonna just be holding this 1DX Mark II. So with everybody switching from Sony to Canon, I figured it'd be a great video to make this, to show a Sony user's perspective on why I'm actually switching to Canon. There's many reasons, and I'm gonna go over all the pros and the cons that I had with Sony, and then I'm gonna go into the big reasons why I switched to the Canon 1DX Mark II. And also, this is being filmed on the Canon EOS R, so that is my B cam. It's very comparable to the Sony a7 III. It's basically Canon's version of the Sony a7 III. All right, so first off, we have the problems I had with my Sony a7 III. And I had three main issues with my Sony a7 III. Now, not everybody has these issues, so take it for what it's worth. This is just my experience. I had a sensor issue on one of my a7 IIIs. I had a mic jack issue actually on both of them. And then also the color signs, the skin tones. So let's start off with the sensor issue. I've only heard of a couple people having this. It may pop up more. It probably has to do with the age of the camera. So you might be seeing this come to the surface a little bit more. What kind of happened was I was filming with the a7 III, and randomly at a wedding, it would just start shaking on me, the sensor. I ruled out that it wasn't the lens. It turned out to be the sensor. And what happened was I had to take it into a camera store, Garland Camera. And what they had to do is peel off some like black sticky thing that's in like the back. I really don't know all the ins and outs why it was causing this issue, but they had to take something out from behind the sensor, and then after that it seemed to work great. Not a big deal. That was like a $200 fix, but still annoying. I don't think I should have to do that with a camera that's a year and a half old. And then secondly, the big like hardware problem I was having is I had a couple mic jack issues. It happened randomly. I didn't do any damage to the camera. It would just glitch out. But what happened is I would plug in my external microphone and the camera would pick it up like, one, either nothing was plugged in, so you just hear the built-in camera microphone, which isn't good at all, and or I would plug in the external mic and then there would be no audio at all. So not even the built-in mic would pick up any audio. Really frustrating. This time it was under warranty. I actually ended up having to send my Sony in twice because I sent it the first time, it came back and the issue still wasn't fixed, so I had to send it again, and this time it was fixed. So still lots of time without the Sony a7 III when this is what I do full time, so I really need my cameras to work. And then obviously the elephant in the room, the skin tones on the Sony versus the skin tones on the Canon. Canon just seems to be able to get it right in camera without having to tweak a lot, either on your color settings on your camera and or in post trying to fix all the colors. I was getting a lot of skin tones that look like really orange. Now, interesting. Now, what if we talk for a second about what I actually did like about the Sony a7 III? Because there was a lot of pros. For instance, I did like the file sizes. The file sizes were a lot smaller than obviously the Canon 1DX Mark II and the EOS R. So that was easier to work with from a storage standpoint and an editing standpoint. It was less work for my computer and laptop to be able to handle the footage. And also the in-body image stabilization. That was cool to have on the Sony a7 III. It made my handheld footage look a lot smoother, but I put out a video on my Instagram, you might have seen it, the coffee video, and that was handheld on the 1DX Mark II, and didn't seem to have any issues with handheld stabilization, so I don't know, maybe not a big deal. And then thirdly, I love the size. Love the size of the smaller mirrorless. It's much easier to transport, it's easier to hold in your hand. You can kind of go a little more undercover. If you have this or you're like vlogging or shooting with this, especially in like public places, security is gonna be more apt to be like, hey, what are you doing around here? You need to go. I don't know, I think it's dumb. Free marketing. I'm actually running out of places to film in my house because the lighting is going down very fast here in Texas, so I'm trying to find window light. All right, so now let's talk about the two major reasons I switched from Sony to Canon. The two big reasons are, one, build quality. When Canon puts something out, I know it's gonna be tried and true and it's just gonna work. And that's what I need, reliability. And the second biggest reason is image quality. Canon's just been the leader in the field for the longest time on their color science. Whatever they're doing, it's working. And you can just tell when you're watching a Canon video versus a Sony video. Sony, no matter how much you color grade it and work with it, the image just tends to look a little washed out and different and not like that realistic feel. Again, this is just all my opinion from what I've learned from shooting Sony for the past like 3 years. Now I did start off shooting Canon, the Canon T3i, and then I went to the Sony a6300, and then I kept upgrading from there throughout the Sony line. I felt like Sony was just killing it in the video field, and now Canon seems to be catching up to the point where their announcement of the 1DX Mark III, and then I'm sure with their second version of the EOS R2, just keep competing with Sony on that video level. Another big reason I switched to Canon, I did a Sony Canon comparison on my Instagram where I was like just pouring some water and ice and like drinking it by a window. When I did a top bottom comparison, I noticed that the highlight roll off on Canon was so much more smoother than it was with Sony. Now Sony, you can go in and you can tweak more settings and you can tweak like the max point and the slope for the highlight roll off. Canon just seems to get it right, like in camera, like you just flip the camera on and it's gonna have a softer highlight roll off, which to me looks better, it looks more cinematic, and especially because I do a lot of weddings and I'm trying to improve and upgrade my wedding films. All right, anyways, y'all, thanks for watching. Those are my biggest reasons I switched from Sony to Canon. It is a lot of work to switch ecosystems and sell all my lenses and camera and all that, but to me, it's totally worth it if I can get a better image quality, better highlight roll off, better color science, and very comparable video specs. So I hope this helped you if you're deciding what camera to get, whether for the first time or you're thinking about switching to Sony from Canon or vice versa. I hope this gave you some insight from an actual Sony user that has been doing this professionally for 3 years. If you have any further questions, just drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and we will catch you filmmakers in the next video.